And we are recording, and we are gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Abbie. This is episode number 7 of season 2, and today we are featuring Bre Cruickshank from Radicaial Girl Gang. Good morning, welcome, Bre.
Hi.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I'm coming at you from my bedroom, which is where I've been recording the latest quarantine episodes. Where are you this morning?
I am in my office right now, and I'm kind of work on the top with this sweater and then like basically pajamas on the bottom with my fuzzy socks and slippers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think I spot some work items behind you.
Yeah, these are some of just a little bit of our product.
Cool. So you are the founder and CEO of Radicaial Girl Gang, which is a brand that I have just seen take Austin by storm, and I'm so excited to finally have the opportunity to sit with you today. And the circumstances of when I'm normally sitting with women identifying founders don't always involve a pandemic.
Right, that thing.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of talking about your journey today as an entrepreneur, but then also I definitely want to get in and be a little bit enlightened about what this past season has been like for you, and how you're personally coping and how your business is coping. But in summary, I'll let you introduce yourself. Radicaial Girl Gang is an online marketplace for women-owned brands. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, we're an e-commerce platform where you can shop the best emerging women-owned brands from all across the United States. So we make it super easy for customers to invest in women-owned businesses, and every purchase on our platform directly supports the women entrepreneurs who are behind these incredible brands. So what I'm really passionate about is shifting power dynamics in society. And I know that one of the most important ways for us to do that is by empowering women in business. With my background in corporate America, I worked at Nike and Outdoor Voices. So I've got a lot of experience with kind of just the branding side of things. So we help our brands break through the noise. They're all early stage. So we really are able to be there from an early point where we can make a big impact for them. So yeah.
Amazing. Where did this idea to start a business come from? I know you said you've obviously worked in retail and for some pretty awesome empowering brands, but how did this get started for you?
So I started Radicaial Girl Gang originally as a side hustle, and I launched it as a clothing brand that really played at the intersection of fashion and feminism. Eventually, I left my full-time job to pursue building the business full-time. But during that journey, I had been really focused on how I wanted to grow and expand the business. And I realized that from the last year that I had spent building it, that what I'm really passionate about is community building. And I also realized that there was a really big gap in actually providing a space where people can shop women-owned brands very easily. And so that's kind of the gap that Radicaial Girl Gang came to fill. And then this past November, we expanded to launch the marketplace, and yeah, we've been growing ever since, introducing new brands every month, and it's been really exciting to see it grow and flourish here in Austin and beyond.
Oh, that's wonderful. What was the signal for you that it was time to leave your full-time job and take this from a side hustle to your
That's such a good question. I think for me it was, so I had been kind of like moving up in this company, and I had actually been offered an opportunity to basically like take on more responsibility and kind of continue that trajectory within this company. And I remember hearing about this opportunity. And the reason I put it in quotes is because what's an opportunity for one person might not be an opportunity for another person. And I remember being in that situation and just feeling so sad because I was like, of course I'm going to do this. It just makes sense for my career. But I was sad also because deep down, I really wanted to move forward with Radicaial Girl Gang, but I just didn't have the total confidence in myself to pursue that path singularly. Yeah, so it was really a personal decision. I just spent a couple days reflecting on it after I was in this particular situation. And I realized that what I really wanted to do was quit my job, and I wanted to go full time and follow my vision with total and complete conviction. And so that's what I did, and I have never looked back, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part that keeps people from pursuing the thing that's on their heart, is that
Yes.
they're like half confident in their ability, when it's like, you just really have to go for it with like 110% conviction.
Right. And I think, I don't know, for me personally, like I'm naturally like pretty risk averse. So, I mean, I had taken a big risk of like already starting my business and doing the side hustle and growing it. But for me, it was like so scary thinking about like literally letting go of like all of the security I had in my life. Like 401k, stability, salary, like all of these things. And those are huge factors. But I will say, like, I mean, that saying, it is super cliche. It's true. Like, no risk, no reward. I feel like for me, that first step was really hard to take, but it does get easier to kind of like, to take risks, but to take like strategic risks, and you are going to be okay. But yeah, I mean, you're never going to be able to move forward if you aren't able to take that first step,
Exactly. How long did it take for you once you dived in? You said, okay, we're going for this. It's no longer a side hustle. It's my full thing. If you don't mind me asking, how long did it take for you to start supporting yourself from that? Or what's that journey been like? Because I think that's probably what scares people the most, is like, how am I going to pay my bills?
Oh my God, absolutely. So we were already generating revenue because I had started it as a side hustle. So it was really helpful to have that foundation already there and already have an existing customer base to build upon, and wholesale accounts and things like that. However, I mean, I was so stressed out financially when I went full time that for me, the best solution was finding a consulting job. I had all of these skills. I still do consulting on the side for clients that are exciting and interesting to me in the e-commerce space. And so I would definitely recommend for like aspiring entrepreneurs or people who are trying to figure out how they're going to make it work, like get a part-time job or do consulting, start a freelance business. Like I don't know why people don't talk about that more. And I feel like there's this expectation that you're supposed to go from like having a full-time job to like totally supporting yourself and like being able to make that work with an early stage startup. Right. That is not the reality for most people. So I talk to a lot of women about this stuff, and it's like, I definitely recommend looking into like other ways that you can bring in revenue, especially if it's just it's a point of stress for you. Like bring that stress level down a little bit and have at least like a little semblance of that stability that you used to have. And for me, that made like my first year being full-time a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think you hear that from probably your parents, but not so often in the startup community. I felt very pressured that we all had to be full-time immediately, right, even though our business was still figuring out how we were acquiring customers and et cetera, et cetera. And then I also think there's this false belief too, that if you're not committed full time, that it's never going to happen. Like it's never going to come alive, which is like complete BS.
Right.
In fact, what we have found is that when we have a little bit more limited time to apply ourselves, we're so much more effective because we know there's other things to do, and this
Yeah.
is the time we have to use, so we better use it wisely.
Right. You've only got your limited amount of time.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Where does your passion for feminism and creating a space for women to have a voice and create commerce and shift this power dynamic that you're talking about?
Oh my gosh, that's like such a loaded question for me, and we'll probably end up talking about that the rest of the time. I am obsessed with women. I think we're really brilliant people. But on our platform, let me rewind because I got so excited by this question. For women entrepreneurs on our platform, I'm really passionate about this because I believe that women entrepreneurs are the future, and I think that women entrepreneurs hold a lot of the answers to a lot of the problems that we're facing as a society, and they need to be supported in order to bring their work and their vision into the world. So I think there's just a tremendous amount of potential in women entrepreneurs in terms of the way that we think, the products we make, the way that we lead in the world, and I want to see that realized. And when it comes to women in business and men in business, those playing fields are unequal inherently. Like the world has been built by men and for men for a long time. And so it just makes sense that women deserve and need to have their own types of ecosystems that are made by and for women. And so that's what Radicaial Girl Gang is doing. I think also when it comes down to the products that we're using on a daily basis, it's really important that women are empowered to make those products. My mug is actually from one of our first brands, and I have tons of products from our women-owned brands in my office. But you'll find when you're in this space that women do create things differently. We make things, we have different perspectives, different life experiences, and that comes through in the product. And it's really, really important that there is a space for that, and that we are engaging with and investing in the women who are, trying to move forward with these businesses.
I have a two-part question now. What kinds of women do you have in your life to support you? And what kinds of allies in terms of men have you found support, both you and Radicaial Girl Gang? Like, what has that dynamic kind of been like for you?
I would say in terms of allies, definitely my partner, Chet, who I've lived with for a long time. We've been dating for like 5 years. He's been an incredible ally for me and has been someone there since day one that has just told me, you have a vision, keep going and keep pursuing it. And him and I have gone from me being corporate Bre to me being startup Bre within like a small period of time. So him being able to like flex with me through those times has just really empowered me to be able to build this and to have like this incredible supportive force behind me the entire time. And then what was the other part of your question?
I'm just curious as to what kind of women you have around you that inspire you.
Oh my God, literally every woman entrepreneur I know, including women like you. I'm so inspired by women who are making shit happen. And I feel super lucky to be surrounded by women entrepreneurs literally every day because that's my job. And those are the women that I'm inspired by because they are bringing their vision to fruition because they know that they're supposed to and that this is important work to them. Obviously, you know how hard this hustle is. And so I have tremendous respect for women in this space. And really it's women like you and like the other female founders that I'm surrounded by, either the ones that we're supporting on Radicaial Girl Gang or just the other ones in the Austin ecosystem that inspire me on a daily basis and give me that fuel to keep going.
Totally. So I know you took your business into, was it technically an accelerator or an incubator?
It was an accelerator. Yeah, Founder Institute.
Cool. And we're in accelerator right now. The concept for Tea with Abbie came from walking into this brand new, very tech heavy fintech and health tech space, where here I am. My trade is acting and creativity, and I'm walking into this space as a first time. My co-founder Georgina recently shifted my mind frame when we're about to launch a new website, and so we were writing up little bios and stuff, and I had put first-time entrepreneur, and she's like, "You're not a first-time entrepreneur. You were like running your own career for like 7 years before this. You might be a first-time startup entrepreneur, but like, don't sell yourself short." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Georgie."
Yeah.
But first-time startup entrepreneur walking into this accelerator was, to say the least, so overwhelming. And so this podcast came from knowing that we had this resource. I felt kind of like a little bit of an anomaly and wanted to connect with other women who might be in the same boat as first-timers, women in very male-dominated spaces or industries and whatnot. And so I'm very curious as to how the experience bringing such a strong feminist brand and concept to that accelerator. What was that journey like?
That's such a good question.
I'm like,
what did the mentors there think of you? Like, what was going on?
I mean, that accelerator was an incredible experience, totally changed my life, totally changed the trajectory of the business, and was just really impactful. But yeah, it was and still is so interesting to be pitching this business to lots of different kinds of people. And, I'm sure that you're familiar with this, like, who are you usually pitching to? Old white men. That's how it goes. And so I almost ended up developing like 2 different pitches when I was there. And it's like, this is the one for women and this is the one for men. And they're slightly different because women understand what I'm talking about right off the bat and why there's so much inherent value in creating spaces by and for women. And men might not totally get why this is important and why it does have that kind of inherent value. And that's because, we have very different perspectives and roles within the system still.
yeah.
And so there were some times where, I think that gendered feedback is a thing. I love feedback. And so most of the feedback I got in the entirety of that program was phenomenal. But definitely there were times where I had to kind of respectfully share back, I understand what you're saying, but let me expand on this a little bit more and let me kind of explain why I decided on this, or why it looked like this, or why it has this type of long-term potential. So it's definitely a very different experience, I think, pitching to men versus pitching to women. And that's still something that I'm dealing with as we're going after fundraising in the future.
What's some of the framing that you use when you're pitching a more male-dominated audience?
I mean, I think using data and numbers is always important, and I think that goes across the board. But I will say, when I am speaking with primarily men, I'm going to lean into that even more and not talk as much about how we're tapping into like the collective power of women to like create this force for change, where we're like disrupting power dynamics in America.
Oh shit.
Right, like it's like scary. So yeah, I'd say lean into that like data and numbers a little bit more. That is something that I do regardless, but with men I do that more.
Cool. Well, I think this would be a good time to start to shift the conversation into what is relevant today, which is you're a business owner rounding out, you finished your first year of business, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then a pandemic hits, which was like, for us, what the heck? We turned 1 on April 1st. Within the, we're raising a seed round right now, and within 5 days we had gone from a commitment of our biggest check to the weekend, and Monday morning Austin was shutting down, and this investor coming back to us and saying it's still a yes, it's just not right now, and our entire world completely changed. We lost 45% of our business. We had to cut hours and people and resources and figure out how do we, as a revenue based business at the moment, because we have received pieces of angel funding that have helped us through, but for the most part, operations are run off of revenue. And so it was like, now what? We're about a month-ish into this kind of new reality. What has it been like for you?
You know, so much of what you just said resonated with me a ton. We had actually been about to kick off our first round of fundraising as well in April. This was back in March, at the beginning of March. Like, I had been working towards that for many, many months of building traction and getting to that point, which it sounds like y'all were too. So, you know, when COVID-19 hit, that has a really big impact. And I think not everyone really understands why, but it's like, there's always a strategy in terms of the time that you're trying to raise and what you're trying to raise for and how much runway you want and need for the business. So that had been, we postponed that until after coronavirus. So, like, fingers crossed, that's potentially fall timeframe that things, you know, get better and improve economically and obviously just safety wise for everyone. So that has been a really big impact, is postponing that. And then in March, I mean, one of the most immediate things was that we had, I think, 4 pop-ups that were all in partnership with South by Southwest that we were so excited about and would be huge brand awareness generators for us, that were all immediately canceled, obviously, when South by was canceled as well. So we missed out on a lot of revenue from that. Just for reference, like last year when we participated in South by, it was our best day of business ever. So those opportunities actually have a tremendous impact on the bottom line, especially when you're talking about an early stage startup or a small business. And then beyond that, like, I'm really, really grateful that we're digitally native. So we have been poised really well for this, and thank God for that. But I mean, that being said, a lot of our brands are struggling. And so for me as the CEO and founder, it's really been about helping to educate people about how small businesses are being impacted and trying to motivate them, if they're able, to continue investing in women-owned businesses during this, because now is such an important time to be doing that. Because a lot of our brands are being adversely affected by this and really experiencing the fallout of COVID-19.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even think of that. Of course, your marketplace is entirely full of small businesses, and it's just been the most confusing few weeks for small businesses to navigate the funding that's available and the applications and the emergency loans, and it's like, how the heck do you keep going?
On top of that, like, you're trying to pay your rent. And I mean, a lot of our brands are doing it part-time, and they have other jobs that supplement their income, like what we were talking about, which again, highly recommend. But a lot of them have, you know, lost those jobs or been furloughed, and relying on their business as their sole source of income, which is a huge transition for a lot of people. But then there's also things like production delays, where we can't like source or make anything right now because no one's working. And nothing's available. Everything's stocked out everywhere. So I think our brands are struggling. And I always believe that it's very critical to invest in women entrepreneurs and to support them. But I think right now it's even more important, because we need them to get through this period of time so they can continue to flourish and grow and thrive as business owners. So it's been a lot for sure.
What are some of the ways that you feel as consumers we can support small business owners right now?
That's such a good question. I mean, there are honestly so many ways. Some of the free ways that literally anyone can do is talk about small businesses you like or brands you like with your friends. Like, send them a website you like, or tag them in a post on Instagram. just helping to spread the word and helping to drive that brand awareness actually is very impactful. Other things that you can do for free are things like sharing Instagram posts, social media posts you like from brands, or like commenting on them to help boost them up in the algorithm. But obviously, another great way is to buy their shit. I mean, truly, like, people are using, you know, with small businesses, like, that money is going to the business and their rent. So if you're in a position where you're able to do that, even if it is a $5, like a sticker pack, that makes a difference. Literally every purchase does. So I think just having that lens on when you are shopping, if you're looking for something new, you know, trying to be cognizant of where you're putting your money towards is it's a really important thing for consumers to think about right now. Because yeah, it just goes back to like, the way that we shop is a reflection of our values and what we value in the world. And the way that we shop directly builds the world that we're in, because that's what we are saying. Here's my vote. I want you to continue to flourish, and I'm giving you my money. So I would say if you're in a position where you can choose between Amazon and a small business, go and support that small business, even if it's a couple more dollars for shipping or something like that, because you're going to be giving this small business your money rather than like a giant corporate machine. No offense to Amazon, but that's my 2 cents.
No, I mean, that feels really emotional, because it's just, there's so much power in how we spend our money.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people prioritize convenience and what's easy over knowing that they can directly impact what tomorrow might look like through the way they spend their money.
Yes, exactly. And
I think the mass majority of people forget that. They've been kind of, you know, washed a little bit to.
Absolutely.
You think it's just your vote every 4 years that you contribute. It goes so much beyond that.
It goes so far beyond that. Businesses, by and large, really do shape our society. And I mean, I really do look at the way that I spend my money as a vote that I'm able to cast every single day, which is actually really awesome that I'm able to do that. And it does make a difference. And I know that firsthand because I have been building this business and bootstrapping it for over a year. So, I mean, I'm really passionate about this because I realize how much, you know, just getting an order from someone, what a tremendous impact that can have. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have people actively voting for me to be able to move forward with my vision. So, you know, and then look at what I'm able to build now is something that's able to amplify other women. So, vote with your dollars when you can, and be conscious about where you're investing your money and look at it as an investment.
Especially now more than ever before.
Yeah. It's tough too, because obviously, like, you know, a lot of people are struggling right now and not in a position where they can do that. And I think that's where like those kind of easy, free, super accessible ways to still like engage and support brands come into play also.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I'm so thrilled that the timing of what you have built feels so appropriate for right now. That like, yes, it's a really rough situation, but like how fortunate that you have this, like you said, digitally native platform that supports small businesses, that supports women-owned businesses, and these are the messages that need to be driven home right now. Yeah. I have another question for you, non-COVID related, and this is so I can learn a little bit, but what I have learned in the last probably like decade, but more specifically like 8 years of my life, was about feminism, right? So I grew up in a very, what I would call a radical place, but these words, these phrases weren't ever brought up to me. I was just brought up in a very culturally rich area in Massachusetts with two pretty woke parents.
That's awesome.
We lived our lives. We had Black friends. We had Puerto Rican friends. We had Brazilian friends. My parents took us to lots of cool music and art. It was great. And it wasn't until later after college and actually moving down to Austin that I started to learn about feminism and truly what that word meant, not just female power, but more of this equal balance.
Yeah.
And then since coming down to Austin, also being exposed to what intersectional feminism meant.
Yes.
And learning about that for the first time, which was absolutely eye-opening to me.
Yes.
And I have been on a mission to kind of learn more. How do I, as a white woman, create space or a platform or just be able to be a little bit more vocal and educative about other kinds of women who are not like me? And from your opinion, this is kind of a long-winded way of asking this question, how do you suggest as a white woman, or how do you as a white woman business owner on your platform support women of color and underrepresented women?
I think that's such an important question, and kudos to you for asking it, because I think those questions are really difficult to ask and they're kind of intimidating and uncomfortable. So literally the first step is like, you're gonna feel uncomfortable talking about it and like dealing with it. And honestly, the best answer, you know, couldn't come from me because I'm not a woman of color, but I will share some of my perspective on it. But yeah, I mean, even I look at most of the spaces that I'm in, and while it's really exciting to see a lot of women, oftentimes it's a lot of white women, and that is a problem. That is a huge problem, and it's a huge problem in entrepreneurship too, because, you know, while Latina women and Black women are the fastest growing segments of entrepreneurs, they are in the worst position to be able to expand and grow their businesses. And they also have the worst access to capital. It's absolutely terrible, the data in terms of the amount of venture capital funding that goes towards Latina owned and Black woman owned businesses. So there's a lot of work to be done. What's great about Radicaial Girl Gang is that since I get to build it, I can just say like, fuck the system, and we're going to basically build it from the ground up how we want. So making sure that we do have brands and founders of color has been really a #1 priority for me in building the platform. Out of the about 20 brands we have, I believe like at least a third are owned by women of color. We do have more Latina owned businesses on our platform versus Black woman owned businesses, but that hasn't been for lack of trying. I'm actively working on that right now, actually, because it's a gigantic gap for us. Like, that's a problem. And I don't have an issue saying, yeah, that's something that I'm actively working on. So I think that's part of it too, is like, be an ally by like looking at your team, look at your relationships, look at your business and how it needs to be truly diverse and inclusive. Bring people of color into that conversation specifically, and then really start building it. And it's okay to not have it all done at once. It's really, no one is asking you to be perfect. I think what we need to do is say, how can we be better, and then do that. And then in terms of just like consumers investing in those businesses and making sure that we're putting our money towards not just white women-owned businesses, but women-owned businesses as in representative of all women, is use that as another filter. If you are passionate about investing in Latina women-owned businesses, which you should be, then use that as a filter when you're casting your vote and you're shopping for clothing or kitchenware or pillows or decor for your house. Like, there's a ton of them out there. So I hope that people are able to go to Radicaial Girl Gang and we're able to do a lot of that work for you. But definitely seeking them out and making sure, again, that that is part of your voting process, I think is super impactful and important.
Well said. Thank you. You taught me a little bit there. Yeah, and it's a question that I've kind of been searching for as I have hosted a lot of white women entrepreneurs, and yes, we are badass and we're going out there and doing it.
Yes.
But we have a slight edge when it comes
Absolutely.
to building our businesses. And so,
I have one more point on that. On the privilege note, like one of the most useful things that I have, been working on doing is just like understanding when you are experiencing your privilege, and then looking at that and saying, okay, how can I use that privilege for the benefit of all women? Or if you're seeing a way that you basically have a foot up, how can you bring other women up with you? Like that is our job as white women entrepreneurs, we are moving forward all women, and that means all women. And it's a very important lens, I believe, for any white woman entrepreneur to have, because we do have more privilege than other women in this space. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that we're able to advocate for more women. Like, we don't want just people to look like us in the room. We want diverse opinions and diverse perspectives. And that just goes back to, having women in the types of leadership roles that we need.
Let's go. I'm so ready for a world that actually looks like the world.
Yes. I mean, that's really what this is all about. That's really what this is all about. Like, it's 2020 and we haven't had a woman president. Why? Patriarchy. That's why. Like, there's a lot, sexism is a gigantic fucking problem. It still is. And yeah, we're making progress, but there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of systems that need to be rebuilt, essentially, in order for us to access a level playing field.
Yeah, and now is the time, as we've experienced this kind of slowing down and everyone has had time to reflect and like really consider how their day-to-day affects people around them and things like that. I think it's the prime opportunity to be asking these really big questions and taking action, so that as we're coming out of this chapter, we can build the world that we're desiring to live in.
Yes.
This has been thrilling. How do you take care of yourself on a day-to-day basis, working from your house as an entrepreneur? What do you do?
That's such a good question. I mean, one of the things that I do is therapy. So I have a therapy appointment at 2 p.m. today, which I'm like, don't forget about that, Bre. That has been really important for me. If you're able to do it, like, I highly recommend seeing a therapist if you're an entrepreneur. It's a really challenging job, and that has helped me a lot. Other things I do are yoga and meditation. I did a 5-minute meditation actually before this. It was more like a 3-minute while I'm like sitting and doing other stuff, but whatever works. And I've actually been just doing that on the Peloton app, which is free right now if anyone wants to get it. And other than that, I mean, to be honest, like, I really struggle with this. I think like most founders do. So I have a really hard time working on my work-life balance, but I've just been trying to create boundaries for myself and giving myself space to be human, despite the fact that my to-do list is terrifying and there is literally always more work to be done. I realized that no one's really going to give me permission to take time for myself, and so that has to come from me. So that's something I've been practicing, is just giving myself permission to take breaks and to rest when I need it, because I am not a robot and I have to keep reminding myself of that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Because like, you're not going to be able to be on this big badass mission at all if you're completely depleted of your personal resources.
Exactly. And like, I do experience burnout and I'm not perfect at it, but I think entrepreneurship in general is like not set up in a way that empowers us to really be full humans. So, I mean, that's another thing I'm trying to kind of like build a new version of entrepreneurship where I can be a human and I can build a business at the same time and not be completely depleted and burnt out and running on fumes.
Our first value at Blended Sense is empathy. And it's based off of this idea that we should all be able to show up to the table with our full hearts, saying how we feel. It's a good day. It's a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm mentally well. I'm going to take the afternoon off. I have a therapy appointment. I'm sad. I just cried before this meeting. Like, we want to create a space where you can do that. And I think that comes from having 2 female founders, and knowing that that's the top priority. We got to take care of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you baked that into essentially like your business model. I think that's exactly how it needs to be done, is saying, no, this is actually a value that we're going to practice every day. And it's actually going to make us more successful, and it's going to empower us to ultimately make more money because we're rested and we're inspired and we're energized and we're working together.
It's the first thing we share with people who we're considering coming in to invest or partner with. Like, these are our values. What are yours? Because we're not going to settle for anything less.
I love that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Kind of going from knowing that these are our values and then to like practicing them every day to then being really confident to state them very boldly in all of our conversations, and watching how powerful that is when we are in investment conversations and what kind of shift those values comes from.
Yes, where it's like, it's okay to be human. Yeah, and you're giving people permission to be their full selves. I think that's really, really cool that y'all are doing that, and I think it makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Last week we had a conversation, and Georgina kind of wrapped it up with this, this big question, and I saw the investors sort of like slight little shift in his tone, and he said, well, here's my personal value system, and I want to be the best father I can be to my daughters and the husband I can be. And I was like, that made me feel to see some real in there, it's certain.
And that is so often taken out of those conversations. So that's really refreshing.
Oh, right? I'm like, cool. So now is the part of the show where I ask my guests to share their statement sip.
Ooh.
Is a mantra, a quote, a saying, something that you try to remind yourself by, whether you succeed or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's hard. But do you have something for us today?
I do. Mine is bend the universe.
Woo! Okay. This is how we do it. You're going to take your cup. We're going to say it together to the camera.
Okay.
And then we cheers and take a sip.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Bend the universe. Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh, and that is the tea.
Love it.
So much, Bre, for joining me this morning in your red hat. It was phenomenal to get the chance to be honest and open with you, and I'm so grateful for how much you shared and how transparent you are. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abbie. It was so fun.
Thanks so much for watching Tea with Abbie. Be sure to click subscribe and smack that like button so you can stay tuned. Smack that like button. See that like button? Smack it. Thanks so much for watching an episode of Tea with Abbie. Be sure to click subscribe and smack that like button so you can stay tuned with new episodes all year long. And if you want to learn more about Blended Sense, visit us at our website, www.blendedsense.com, or follow us on social at Blended Sense or at blendedsense.io. See you next week.